Boom, guys, welcome to another podcast episode, the Boom Effect podcast, guys. This is part 2 for credit and business funding. Last time where we left off. Welcome to the Boom Effect podcast. This is the podcast where we obviously have bold conversations, where we bring obsessed guests, and where we keep everything optimistic, obviously. And we have a mindset that's abundant, and that's the reason why we share our journey. My name is Mamadou Diallo, full-time real estate developer, business acquisition, marketing. Mr. Stephen Blow right here, 23-year-old entrepreneur, real estate, business funding, trading, you name it, man. At 23, I was in the clubs. This guy is so lucky he don't even know. So that's my brother. That's my business partner as well, podcast co-host. So today, Mr. Blow, we're going to continue where we left off, but introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah. Stephen Blow, 23-year-old entrepreneur, developer, trader, you name it, business funding expert. Hey, we can get you $150,000 or $3,000 out of your own pocket. Hey, you guys. So, I'm sitting right here next to one of the greatest guests ever, my brother, my partner, Mamadou, and we're gonna kick this off, man, and teach you guys about everything dealing with credit, and then later on we're gonna talk about trading as well. So, boom, boom,
boom. 100. Yeah, guys, we're gonna do 2 segments. So today we're gonna do business funding. And the credit where we left off, just to go into some details that I feel like we missed last time, because we lacked time. And then the second episode we're gonna do, guys, is going to be around trading. So if you guys are interested in that as well, make sure you come back every single Thursday, 5 p.m. CST. All right, guys, I promise you guys we'll drop an episode every single Thursday, 5 p.m. CST. So make sure you come back to check that one out as well. Now, last time, here's the thing that created a whole bunch of negative comments, okay? Now, the majority was positive, but this thing went viral. Is where you said the bank don't give a damn about your credit score. They absolutely don't give a damn about it. That's not what matters. And you started going into details to what matters more than your score. And the reason was because I asked you the question. I said, hey, I notice all the clients and our students that you're helping with all this funding to go get the business funding is when they come to you, they start bragging about the 830 credit score, the 800 credit score, or they say, hey, I don't understand. I went to the bank, I have a 700 credit score and I couldn't qualify for the car. I couldn't qualify for the business funding. And then you always like, they don't give a shit about that. So I think people got caught up on it, but later you explain why. So I want to pick it up there because you're absolutely right. Even me, I didn't know. I thought the score is what matters. So you said no, it's not just about the score. You called it, I think, credit mix. Yes. Okay, let's go back to that. Explain to me. So it's not just about the credit score. You said it's about the credit mix. What is that? Let's go into details about that.
Now, let's jump into the credit mix.
And we can give, if you want, a couple of different examples, like scenarios. Because I notice you approach, if somebody is looking to buy a car, you approach their profile differently than somebody who says, hey, I'm looking for funding, but I'm trying to do real estate. I'm trying to do a fix and flip or a real estate project, real estate development project. You approach it completely different the way you structure their credit profile. So let's take the first example. Somebody wants, let's say, a car to start with, soft. So I have my credit score and then the profile. Explain.
Okay, perfect. So first and foremost, because I do want to address this part first. Your credit score does matter, right? But what's more important is your credit mix. I think last time we had spoke, I explained to them that your credit mix is basically just a mixture of 2 things, trade lines and primaries. What is a trade line? Well, a trade line is a credit card, any type of credit card or authorized user that you add to. What's a primary? Primary is a car note, mortgage, personal loan, these things. Now, jumping into what we were speaking about, Mamadou, as far as your credit mix being important. Your credit mix is what creates your credit score. I want people to understand that, all right? But I tried to tell people, as I was explaining last time, I know exactly what you're talking about. You cannot have 5 credit cards on your account and have an 800 credit score and think that the bank is going to approve you. You don't have a bunch of different credit cards. You're not taking out enough debt in different things in order for them to actually approve you.
So like in this case, the person has, even though they have 5 credit cards, which would be considered 5 different profiles, correct?
Yeah, it would be 5 different accounts.
5 different accounts, sorry.
Yes, sir.
5 different accounts, you have 5 different cars, but even though if you looked up your profile online, it says 700 plus credit score.
Correct.
If you go to the bank right now and you want, let's say, a car, they might still say no.
Yes.
Okay, so
100%.
so now, how do you get, or why? Like explain why, and how do you get different, I guess, credit mix?
Yeah, how you get different accounts that show different things. So, for example, all right, my thing is I always tell people, first and foremost, when we're looking at credit cards, think about it. If I came to you, right, and you're a person that is known for paying back low loans. For example, if somebody gives you $100 and you're known for paying back $100, that's fine. But I also want to see, okay, if somebody can trust you with $10,000, can you pay back $10,000, right? So that's what the credit mix shows. It just shows that you're able to pay about different types of debt, right? Sometimes you might be used to paying back $100. I know you can pay $100, but now let's see if you can pay back $10,000. The bank just wants to see that, okay, you're capable of paying back different type of loans. And that's why the credit mix is so important, because the credit card is just one type of loan, right? It's
Which
one type of
absolutely
loan.
makes sense. Which absolutely makes sense. If I came to you, you were a friend of mine, and you've never seen me, or let's say no, it's a new relationship, because the bank doesn't know you. The first time you go there, they don't know you unless you already have a track history, which is what they want to see. The track history shows that you have a relationship with them. So you've borrowed, you paid back on time. But this time, when you're new, it's like you're, somebody in your neighborhood that has money, but they don't know you. And so they're going around the neighborhood and asking, okay, hey, Mamadou borrowed from you $10.
Yeah.
He paid it back? Okay, great. Now they're trying to find somebody else that I borrowed from maybe 100. Because if I come to you and say, give me $100,000, and you don't have I don't have any track history to show you that back, I've already borrowed $100,000 because I had business acumen. I was able to put it to work, multiply the money, whatever, and pay back. Okay, that makes logical sense.
Correct.
So where do people even begin to understand the difference? Like, is it you go grab a book to understand the difference between the credit score, credit profiles? Is it like, where do you even begin to start understanding? Because I feel like most people, even though they live in the US, and one of the negative comments I saw, which was funny, is no, stay away from credit cards altogether. And the reason for that is or stay away from credit.
Right.
And the reason for that, I mean, this YouTube short has about 40K views.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so it went up, right?
Yeah.
So some people are saying completely stay away from it. Now, it might sound realistic to you in your world, but if you live in the US, it's completely unrealistic. It's like me saying nowadays, hey, you should just stay away from social media
100%.
and you own a business. It's just not realistic. What I can say is, hey, when you go to social media in these apps, Instagram, TikTok, make sure you are a creator and not a consumer.
Correct.
So when you go there, create content for your business instead of consuming the business. So limit your scrolling time.
Agreed.
So here in the US, we live in a system where, and guys, for those who maybe didn't watch it, we talked about this book. Is The Creature from Jekyll Island, and it talks about the Federal Reserve, the World Bank, how it was created, how money is not even real, but how did it come about, how fiat currency works. And if you understand, unless you understand the system, you wouldn't understand that here in the US, you can't, even if you tried. I mean, if you're already wealthy, if your uncle is Bill Gates, and he's willing to give you the money, even though even him, he won't. But let's say hypothetically, then you're good. But not everybody can go out here and buy a home $500,000 cash. We agree. So, but you live in a system where the rules have been established. You want to rent an apartment? What do you need? You need credit. You want to buy a car? You need credit. Even if you had the money, they don't care. They want to see your credit profile, right? You go to the bank. You want a business loan to start whatever, salon, do real estate. They want to see your credit. That is the system. That is the game, and those are the rules. So unless you play by those rules, just try to be the best player in the game, well, you're going to lose because it's already been established. Or you move out of the system. So you go to Dubai or you go in a third world country. For most people, that's, again, not realistic. So instead, I think the fear comes, they say, well, when you say credit, you say debt.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Right.
But I think, like you said last time, the lack of financial literacy make it to where most people that actually get debt it doesn't matter whether it be from a bank or their uncle or an aunt, is they don't know how to take money and put it to actual work.
I agree.
And make money from that money.
I agree.
And so you end up being in bad debt because of bad expenses. So explain when you say credit, of course, is always a debt. Yes. But what is it meant to be used for and how?
So this debt, but people don't understand, right, what you said, financial literacy. And I would tell people, YouTube University, you come to people like us who actually educate you through the process as we actually fix your credit. Yeah. So you guys can come sign up with us. We actually coach you through the actual financial process of the credit. But going back to that, people don't understand that you're using this debt to basically go out and go generate income. The thing about credit that I tell people, right, is you're being able to go and ask the bank for 50 to 100,000 to start that business you wanted to start. Go open that car wash. Go open that store. Go open that family business. People have to understand that when you're going out, the whole purpose of taking that debt out is to go make money from the debt. Right. You take that 10K credit card and your goal is to go out and go make 30K. You want to pay the bank back their 10K and you pocket your 20K in profit. That's what people don't understand when it comes to credit cards or debt or credit. They think that credit is used to go buy the new Jordans or hold the bills over month after month. That is not the purpose in credit. If you use it to do
seed money. It's supposed to be your seed money to help you grow. Exactly. Basically. I mean, guys, the reality is because of in certain cultures, this is not a regular conversation. I agree. On the last podcast, we talked about how for you, for example, your best, influence when it comes to being financially disciplined at this age, having 800 plus credit score, came by proximity of your mom's. Okay. But culturally, this is like financial literacy is not something we talk about. Right. It's not something we're taught at the homes. Okay. Definitely not at the schools. And so because we don't have those conversations, we don't learn early on business because, and so if you don't know how to take 100 grand and put it into a vehicle to where you can go generate. So let's say the bank give on average what? How many months? 0%?
Yeah, you can get 12 months 0% interest.
Okay, 12 months 0%. Sometimes you might get 18, but let's just say 12 to be conservative. Yeah. Unless you have a vehicle that you know for sure, there's nothing guaranteed, but it's something you understand, and you know if you put the money in, you'll be able to get back your principal and your profits in less than the 12 months. That's the idea. That is the idea. And so most people, what did you notice with the clients that come to you? And I already know the answer, but just for the audience, like when people come to you and they say, hey, I want funding because it sounds good. Like I can get it. I can just get a good credit profile, create an LLC, and you can help me get the funding. Right. And I know your biggest fear, and the first question you ask them is always what?
Hey, listen, where is this money going? Where are you putting those funds towards? Yeah. What business are we opening?
Explain why is that important.
So it's so important because every time we get into credit, the number one thing is, I always tell people, you can access the capital pretty damn easy. Yeah, it takes $2,000 to $3,000 to set your credit up to go access the capital. The problem is once people get $150,000 in their hand, analysis paralysis happens. You take 3-4 months to figure out the business what you want to do, or you never make any type of plans at all. And again, we know with anything, right? If money is just sitting there, if a bill comes, you're going to start using it for the bills to pay here and there. So we always like to know if you have a plan or some type of goal with the money. That's super vital. Because you have to flip this money. Remember, you only have 12 months to even make something happen off of it. This is why you come to people like us for the real estate. You go out and do Airbnb arbitrage and these type of businesses to be able to go make that quick return on capital. But that's one of the reasons we ask, because if you don't put that money somewhere to work fast, at that particular point, people start using it for a bunch of dumb stuff. Yeah,
but basically in the credit business funding industry, I feel like there is also a lack of care when it comes to, I'm talking about the gurus, because as long as they get their percentage to help you get those funding, they really don't care. I don't know, because most people, unless you educate them, like I remember last time there was this guy, he's from France. Correct. And he wanted to have an ITN here, set up the LLC, access funding, whatever. And he said he was already part of a group that he paid for. They're helping him through the process to get the funding, to get the credit cards at 0%. The issue is the guy is in panic mode. He's shy to tell it to the coach.
Yes.
But he's like, I actually don't know what I'm gonna do with the money. I have no plans for it. I don't know if I should go into real estate or whatever the case may be. But when I discover you and your team's content, is I realize, oh, if I go with you guys or I talk to people like you guys, you're not just helping me get the funding, but there is a vehicle. You're kind of showing me,
100%.
hey, you can put the money to work here, because that's the idea. Otherwise, of course, you end up in bad debt, right? So I remember you told me a story of
I'm actually gonna go to that.
a friend of ours that funded somebody. What happened with that?
Yeah, so the funny part about it, we actually have a story where we were going through a funding process, and this is actually where the shift took place for us, where, okay, we have to do this a little bit different as far as giving people an investment vehicle. So we went through the funding process. We got this guy $150,000 off the credit card. We also was able to go out during the time and go get him an SBA loan for $250,000. Well, what this guy did.
What is the SBA loan?
So yeah, for you guys, for SBA loan is a small business loan, right? So during the time during COVID, when businesses were going through financial hardship.
Yes, I remember hearing the name.
Yes, man. So the banks were giving out something called grants. Grants are basically free money. So if you took this money, if the bank gave you $400,000 and you used this money in your business, it basically was a free money. You didn't have to give this back. Nope, you did not have to pay the government back. No interest. No paying back the principal, anything.
Do you have to prove that you actually use money for business?
Yes, and this is why a lot of people actually started getting caught up with the SBA loans and some of the grants that was coming out at that time. Is because they started understanding that people was taking the funds and instead of using it in their business, these people were going out, for example, with this guy, buying a Lamborghini. So we actually was able to get this guy an SBA loan. Instead of going out and taking the SBA loan on his business, he went out and bought a brand new Lamborghini.
Like a brand new. How old was he?
Huh?
How old was he?
I think the guy at the time was 25, 26.
Imagine that guy. So 25, 26. Obviously, that tells me probably his circle of influence.
100%.
There's something wrong with it. Or he's living in the social media world where, because how do you go from getting funding to going and buying a car that is not going to appreciate in value, that is not going to build any generational wealth for you and your family? So now I know as somebody who helped that kind of person get funding, then he does that. And I know something happened to where he even lost the car. Can you explain?
Yeah, so during the time when he actually did it, he ended up going to get the Lamborghini and everything. Mind you, we only did this because for me, I'm very particular about it. We only did it because he thought he was starting a Toro business. But it started to...
That's what he gave us.
That's what he gave us originally, but it's turned to a more of a, hey, this is a personal thing you can kind of see. So he ended up taking his vehicle out. 3 or 4 months later, I think he ended up crashing and completely totaling the vehicle. The issue was at the time he didn't get the proper insurance on the vehicle either. So not only did he have to go ahead and come out of pocket to go ahead and cover the damages and losses with the car, that was the first thing. But 2, the SBA lenders also found out what he spent the money on and realized that it wasn't for a business.
Because of the accident.
Because of the accident. So pretty much. So he had to end up paying back the SBA loan.
Could he get that off his credit?
No. So for you guys that need to know, anytime you're dealing with a government loan, whether this is student loan or SBA, once those hit your credit, it's virtually impossible to remove those. Even if you get them taken off, any credit guru to try to tell you this, anytime you get them taken off, they're going to put it right back on.
That is crazy. It's like the student loans, basically.
Just like student loans.
Okay.
Same government grant loan.
Okay.
Yeah, it's damn near impossible to get them off.
Got it. So and I kind of get that, guys, because if you're helping somebody get business funding, and they go like anybody you help, if they cannot tell you exactly what their plans are for the money, or at least be willing and open to be taught, maybe, and given ideas or where to put the money to work, because you guys are absolutely right. The people that left negative comments, it is a debt. But unless you have an uncle or a cousin or you've inherited cash, you need that seed money to be able to, start something. And the whole idea of it is to use that to take you to the next level, to where at some point you maybe don't need that, right? Because you've been able to put it to work.
I want to pick up on your point real fast, Mamadou, before you continue. One of the things I want people to understand too, right? The thing with the credit system, this is a way for your normal, average, everyday working person to be able to start that business. Like a lot of people are not born into rich families.
Exactly.
Right? So
that's the majority.
Yeah, majority.
That's the majority of people.
So like literally, like you say all the time, for less than a Starbucks drink, like
it doesn't matter what you want to start.
Right.
It doesn't matter what you want to start. And the reality is, I'm telling you guys right now, if you read this book, you will understand that even these companies that we admire, from the Starbucks to the McDonald's, everything you see in front of you, if you walk into a McDonald's tomorrow to buy a coffee, I want you to realize that that is a DBA. That is a DBA. That is just a front store doing business as, that's what DBA stands for, and it's all a clown show. They just use these things. They go to the banks. They use things like corps, C corps, you name it. They go get millions and millions of dollars from the bank, and then they go to third world countries and invest in mining, you name it. So none of these Starbucks, most of them are not even profitable. But it's the game they play because the game is written for actually those big companies. One thing you're gonna realize when you read this book is the reason it's easier to get from the bank $50 million than $50,000 is because the only guarantee they have of a bailout from the government through the taxpayers is if they give huge amount of loans. Like the big numbers. So that's the reason why. So you got to pick up this book and understand what kind of game you're playing. Now, for the little business owner, whatever industry you're in, beauty industry, whatever industry you're in, typically what you need is capital to get started. So if you can access capital through families or personal relationships, well, you have to walk into these banks and play that same game, which is legal. You just set up your LLCs properly, personal profile properly, C corps properly, and you walk in not as, last time I remember you doing that distinction, and we can go over that. You never walk in as Stephen Blow or as Mamadou Diallo. You always want to walk in as a company or a corp. And through that, you can get access to so many different things. But at the end of the day, yes, it's still your responsibility to get into an industry that either one, you understand, or you know somebody that understands it, put the money to work, generate money from it. That's the whole point, is for you to use it as seed money, not to go buy the Gucci's, the Louis Vuittons, and all that dumb shit, right? So with that being said, bro, so if somebody is building their credit, right? And they're trying to, let's say their goal is to go have business funding. What are those banks that is really good for the average person to start building relationships with from early on?
I'm glad you actually asked that question. So you have your distinction between banks. You have your tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, all right? That's what we call them. Your tier 1 banks is pretty much all your major banks. So think of your big time banks, JP Chase Morgan, your Bank of Americas, your Wells Fargo's, your Citizens, those bigger banks, right? We call them the tier 1s because these are the banks that will typically give out the most money. These are the banks you typically want to have a relationship with because they're pretty much international banks, right? For the people that
probably have the most money.
Oh, 100%. Like I said, you got the Bank of China too, just for the international people. A few banks that's overseas, UK.
Bank of China?
Yeah, Bank of China is a tier 1 bank. These are international banks though.
Okay, they fund what? They fund expats or?
Nah, yeah, they can fund.
Use those banks.
So I remember one time, just quick story. Yeah, Bank of China, they fund like people from China, like international people in America, like Chinese immigrants in America can actually go to Bank of China, ask for a loan to buy a property in America.
There is a reason, guys, why most real estate in the U.S., like it or not, please don't hate, is Asian owned. Just FYI, is Asian or people from the Middle East. Go to Philly. I remember back then when I was trying to wholesale virtually, one of my markets that I picked was Philly. Philadelphia is Asian owned. Every homeowner last name is Young, Hung, Dong. Like, and I'm not saying this as a joke. It's just like literally, it's actually not a joke. I admire that, as they should, right? And we know like what our best cash buyer, our Asian auntie, Joanne, she has access to capital for her deals. I'm sure she have those connections because they're very community based. So okay, Bank of China. Okay, so go ahead. So you have you call them the
tier 1.
Your tier 1 banks. Okay.
You say tier 1.
So you have just to because we went a little bit on
Yeah, just kind of pick it back up. But yeah, you got your Chase. Yep. Wells Fargo. And then, like I said, you can use your Citizens banks, like those.
Citizen banks?
Yeah.
Okay. So those are the ones you want to start with.
Yeah, those are always the top three you want to start with, really. Chase, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo.
So when you say build a relationship with them, explain what does that even mean? Where do I start?
Yeah, so perfect. So basically, I would go in and start building personal relationships. Again, if you don't have a personal bank account, go in and go in person, open a personal bank account, deposit some funds in that bank account, and then continually start to do transactions, even on the personal end out of that. And I would always tell people this too. A lot of things I think a lot of people miss a lot of time is going to the bank branch. I know everything is digital nowadays. Everybody want to do everything online banking. Go to the damn bank and shake the banker hand and have a conversation with them, because these are the people that actually push your loans through. These are the people when you want to access money, they're going to give you the money. So you need to go there with these people and start building relationships, because even when you go for the business funding, these relationships are imperative. So go into that bank, deposit some funds, shake your banker hand, ask to speak to the regional manager, which I'll explain who that is, which is an RM, and start building that relationship with that banker or regional manager in that branch.
Okay.
Yes.
So as money start flowing in and out, obviously once it's time to apply for business funding,
Correct.
that RM,
Yes.
that you call him, that's the person you're probably going to go to. Because I know each client we've helped so far, you had to like introduce them through email to those RMs in different branches.
Yes.
Now, with that being said, guys, I mean, since the dawn of human time, it hasn't changed when it comes to building relationships. It's all about your network.
All right.
So these banks are no different. It's human beings working in these banks. It's not robots. And so it's people pushing buttons, either they're pushing green or red or I don't know, whatever color they push, but building that relationship first. I love that the first thing you explained is bank don't care about you unless you go deposit money, because they need your money to lend money. The way fiat currency works is if me, Mamadou, I walk in and I put $1, right? I deposit $1 at the bank. Now, by virtue of their game, the rules of the game, they can actually create $9 more out of the thin air, just because I deposited $1.
Correct.
So the first relationship they care about is, did you deposit anything in this bank? And then the second thing, as you said, now you want to establish that human to human relationships by just talking to them. Okay. So now moving away from that a little bit, right? So with the business funding. If somebody wants business funding, I also notice one of the mistakes that you always have to help people with is they went and named their LLCs. We had a couple of people today, either their name or they named it, with a specific industry. Speak on that a little bit. Like, what are those mistakes to avoid when you're naming your LLCs and how you actually setting them up?
Right, so I'm gonna point out a key distinction, just so you guys know. Again, you have a social security number, which we explained on the last one, and you have an EIN. Remember, that EIN is a person. That social security number is you. The EIN is a whole separate person. So when you start to go name the LLC after you basically what you're telling the bank is, me and that person are the same people. That is the problem whenever you're going for a business. You have to create complete separation. How you do this? When you go into the bank, you want to go ahead and name that LLC something very general. I don't care if you name it Laughing Turtle LLC. It needs to be something completely generic so that the bank can identify what type of business you're doing, but also it helps create that separation between you and your business. So a lot of times when we go over clients' LLC, I always see them either they name the business something along the like a family lineage. They put their last name on there. Also, a lot of times, same thing I always like to say, you need to make it a separate person. Why the hell do you have your personal phone number attached to your business? You need to create personal phone, your business number, business email, business address. Why would the bank lend to somebody that's actually not set up properly as a business? Right? You have to go out here and go set these things up. So when you go to start to put that business email, that business address on the business phone number, and then you also separate the name, this is what creates the separation between you and your LLC to make that LLC a legit business.
So if you were to walk into Chase right now and you're walking in to get business funding, basically it's not only you that walk in, it's two people.
It's two people.
It's Steve and
Laughing Turtle LLC.
So it's two people that walked in, but because you're the human being that have legs and eyes and whatever, you're the person that walks in with your twin, but the person asking for the money is completely, that's where you said, so you have the SSN, your business have an EIN for a reason.
Right.
Big distinction for the bank.
Big distinction.
Okay.
So yeah,
that's really good to know, because I know when we get to the C corps and stuff, it even gets more interesting to make that distinction, like to completely have a complete separation. Because I remember my first LLC that I set up, my address was my home. I never knew. I went on LegalZoom online, watching YouTube gurus, went online, created just to be cheap. I was trying to save money, created an LLC. I don't know nothing about LLCs, and I put my home address. But now knowing what I know, if you walk into the bank, what that tells the bank is almost like you, because the LLC is a different person, is your, I don't know, maybe your little brother sleeping on your couch, and you calling that a business, like, and you want us to give him funding, but he's sleeping on the couch, so it just doesn't work. So you got to have a professional email, professional business address,
business phone number.
And one of the things, also one of the mistakes recently you even told me about is, if you have your business address, even though it's a business address, you have to be picky. Like it has to be a physical building. But ideally, for certain banks, I think one of them was Wells Fargo or Chase. Okay, they're picky in terms of even though it's a building and it's not your home, but if it's a co-shared space, they complain about it. They want it to be an actual, explain that.
So right now, what's going on, because a lot of gurus are telling people to go to iPostal and all these sites, right? You really want to make sure that you're checking out these business addresses, because if they're a shared working space or a co-working space, what banks are now doing is they're going in, they're flagging these addresses as co-working spaces.
So
they're starting to catch up.
Don't forget,
they're catching you guys.
The YouTube videos and the IG reels.
Right. So when they flagging these places as co-working spaces, what is now happening is basically they're kicking your address back at the bank, and they're telling you, hey, this address is flagged. We can't approve you. So people are getting instantly denied. They're getting disapprovals, or the bank is coming back and telling them to change their address and put their home addresses. So those are the things you're gonna work for.
How do you verify if it's a co-shared space?
Funny part, there's a website, and we'll link it down in the description. I'll give you guys a website. There's a website you can actually go to and put your address in, and it'll let you know what the banks are gonna flag the address as.
Do you have the name
when you go in there?
You have the name in mind?
No, I have to get the name in mind. I actually have to get the name.
So we'll put all that the links below. But you see, guys, this is what I'm saying. Like everything in life, like you wouldn't just get up in the morning. You've never driven a car. You just go walk in and you turn on the car and you start driving. You're gonna kill somebody, right? Typically, what you do is you take an exam, and then you sit next to somebody that actually knows how to drive a car, and then they guide you, but they have their pedals on their side. At least in Europe, when I learned, is it the same here? They don't. Okay, so in Europe, like the guy that is teaching you, he has pedals on his side of the seat. So in case you mess up on the highway, he can stop the car and everything. But anyway, but what I'm saying is, guys, like the reason and the reason I'm going through this is because I want to segue a little bit, because I see a lot of people, the reason they try to figure this out by themselves and then they keep getting denied is because they don't want to go through somebody. Because again, the same way I did when I first started, instead of setting up my LLC properly by just going through somebody, which would have costed me less than a Starbucks, I try to figure out to save pennies. And so if you go through somebody that already understand all these nuances, once you do it the first time, now you know how to do it. You understand what I'm saying? So it's the same thing. Also, even after you get the funding, like any business you go through, you want to invest that money into. If you have never done business before in that industry, go find a coach.
I agree.
To mentor you hands-on on your first fix and flip. Mentor you hands-on on your first real estate new development instead of trying to save pennies. And now you lose all the money you paid late just because you're not trying to pay anybody, right? So with that being said, so I actually love that. I really love those details that you just brought up. So now you talked about the tier 1 banks. So I'm assuming if you have tier 1, then you have tier 2.
Yes, tier 2.
Tell me which banks are those.
So now we start going to tier 2, which I mentioned earlier, correction. Citizen will be a tier 2 bank. So you have your Citizens, your Amherst. These are what we call it. They're more regional. So they're not international or not going to be in every state. So these are Citizens, Amherst, Regions, So these are the, like, we call them like the smaller banks, right? Like mom and pop banks. When you start getting to these tier 2 banks, they start to focus more so on relationship. So Navy Federal also will be a tier 2 bank as well. Your credit unions. Yeah, so credit unions, Andrews, Federal Credit Union.
One of them you need a relationship to get in.
Yeah.
Navy Federal?
Yeah, Navy, you have to actually be a veteran. But hey, you guys, if you stay tuned and everything, if you come book a call with us, I can actually show you how to get in Navy Federal without even being a military member. But yeah.
Yeah. So and another funny thing that I found, which is very ironic. So some of the comments, or even some of this like business funding / credit card content, I see a lot of people in the comment going, "Oh yeah, you should not do that. That's a things like, let's say, like trade lines or things like that. These are scams, is illegal. The bank, you might get in trouble with the bank." What people don't realize is, because if you know anything about the way the system works in the US, is that the whole game is rigged from day one.
Yes.
And the biggest rig in this game is the banks themselves. Like the game they play, if you understood it and you could get everybody to go and march right? against it, you would.
Yeah.
It's because you don't understand it that you're saying those things. But the reality is they establish a game, they put rules. As long as you play within those rules and you go there and you say, "Give me money," they'll give it to you. Now, the only way for you to find yourself in bad debt, that comes down to the person.
100%.
Are you financially responsible?
Yes.
Or did you invest it into something that was smart? Or did you do some dumb shit? That you cannot go take, if I take wrong decisions and I use the money not wisely, I didn't invest it properly, and then I lose it, find myself in bad credit card debt, I cannot now come back and blame credit cards and blame the bank. I received the money, I put it, and I bought a Ferrari, like our friend, right? So with that being said, like, do you see a lot of mindset issues when it comes to credit and business funding in general? When people come to you, do you notice a lot of mindset issues?
Yeah, 100%. So I'm gonna say this, and it's even for the negative comment, because for me, not because honestly, I want to say what I want to say. A bunch of dumbasses. For me, this is the reason that your kids, right, they don't get a head start.
Yes.
This is the reason that certain cultures get a head start.
Us.
Yes, especially minorities, right? And this us, either Hispanics, like just different people that come to this country. But my point is, this is the reason that you continue to be stuck, because you go to saying dumb shit. Oh, you can't do a trade line. Well, if you go to your bank and open the portal and go to the settings, that literally is a section for trade lines and authorized users. Like, it's stupid to me. So this is the reason that our culture this is the reason that people get so far behind, because you're not willing to go out and educate yourselves, right? So like, you always think the trade lines are legal. They think that primary is illegal. Even there's a job called data furnishing, right? Which allows you to report certain things to your credit report.
Data furnishing?
Yeah, it's called data furnishing, right? And you can actually go search this up and see that data furnishers are the ones that put certain things on your credit. So this is the thing I try to tell people, right? I have a lot of people come to me with mindset issues. Every single time you talk to them, they always think a credit card is terrible. They don't know they don't even understand how to use a credit card. They don't even understand that swiping a credit card is actually debt, right? Itself, right? Some people think it's...
I mean, to me, this is like the guy or the girl that have been cheated on so much, or maybe one time or two times, and now she's walking around saying men and shit, all men and shit. Or the guy, a girl cheated on you, and now you're walking around, every woman you meet, the woman and shit. It's the same thing. Because the reality is, if you, I mean, listen, if you're somebody who you can live within your means, or you can move into a third world country, we're addressing people that live within the system. If we live in the US, we do business here. We have real estate. We have a real estate company. Went from flips to real estate new development. You're always talking funding. So unless you have a rich uncle within the family that is willing to fund all your projects, you need funding in business. Most small businesses go out of business because of lack of funding. And so you have to at least try to understand the game and play it. It's so easy to just sit down at a job that you hate and type scam. It's so easy, right? So anyway, we don't care about that. The reason I'm bringing that up is because it's going to help the people that are actually going to listen to understand that, hey, all you have to do is a little bit of research to see that these things actually you can do it. You can create, you can have trade lines. And we're going to talk about that, by the way. Like, talk to me about the trade line. So which avatar of a person actually needs a profile, needs a trade line?
Yeah.
If they're trying to go for funding, like what would you be lacking in order for you to need a trade line?
100%. So when we talk about the credit profile and we talk about a credit mix, I always tell people the credit mix is the first one, and then your age of your credit report. So for the age. So I'll use an example. Me, for example, I'm 18. When I was 18, right? Most of the time, you can't start taking out debt and putting your Social Security on things legally until you're about 18. This is when you can start applying for cars and mortgages and things of that nature.
Is that still the case? 18?
Yeah, 18 is still the case. Now, you can go put your kids' information on something and put them in debt. I have seen parents do that as well. Like they put their kids' Social Security number on mortgages and loans at 15, 16, completely wreck the kid. I have seen that happen before.
They put them as what, co-signers?
Yeah, co-signers. Yes. I've seen parents put their kids as co-signers at 15 and 16.
How can that help a parent? Is it because the kids have maybe a student job?
Yeah. Let's say, for example, which I've seen happen before. I've seen parents build their kids' credit up, right, and build it to a great number, maybe 700, 800, and create their credit report before they're even 18. Their parents go out and mess up their credit, and so in order to get the loan, they co-sign their kids on. I've seen it happen more times than you know, honestly. So that's one thing.
That's setting up your kids for failure,
right?
From a very
early age. It is sad, but again, lack of financial literacy. So now diving back into the other point I was making, the two things that you want to do is your credit mix and your credit age. A lot of times people don't have enough credit history. So maybe they just apply for a new credit card, savings secured credit card. So, again, they don't have the history that they need. And most banks want to see at least 2 years of history minimum for your credit history. So for somebody like that, what you would then do is you would go to somebody like me, you, or Andrew, or the ecosystem that we have, and we would give you a credit card that has not only we've owned for 8 years, but it has a high credit limit, maybe $10,000 to $15,000. Right? Okay. So you get, not only do you get the history to extend your credit history, but you also get the the credit limit. So it looks to the bank
so I get the age and the limit.
You get the age.
So if you added me, and I know because you just did that for a student of ours, you added him on a card. I think it's 11,000 credit card.
$11,000. Yep.
And all of a sudden now on his profile, he has 11,000 plus. He has the age.
Yes.
That is crazy. Well, guys, if you don't believe that this is real, let me tell you something. We in real estate. I have homes that I financed. Okay, I have homes that I financed. If today I wanted, I could take the paperwork that the person that I financed the home to sign, which is the note and the deed of trust. I could literally take that and trade it and sell it to somebody, and that person would buy my notes.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. There's third-party companies that will call you and try to sell you trade lines, or they'll call somebody with a great credit profile and a great credit history and tell you, hey, let us sell your profile, your trade lines and your history to other people so you can generate cash flow. These are I'm talking about big companies. The same way maybe sometimes you get calls from politicians because they're trying to raise money. These people will call you. Like Steve received these calls all the time because his credit profile he's on his A game when it comes to that, right? So guys, this is like note trading, history, profile, is a thing. The system is built on that. That's what I'm talking about. So when you see people doing this and you think, oh, they're doing something illegal, what you don't understand is the banks themselves, they do this all the time. You buy a home today, you close on that home today, or you take a loan today, you close on that loan today, you sign the paperwork, and then they create that money out of the thin air soon after you sign.
Right.
Go do your own research, but that's exactly how it works, right? The money wasn't anywhere, it didn't exist. So now that they created that money, next day what happens oftentimes is you receive an email or a text message or a call saying, hey, I'm your new servicer.
You're right.
I'm basically your new landlord. Yep. So now the payments, you have to send them to me. What just happened? The bank just sold the note. They just sold the note. It's all paper, guys. None of this exists, by the way. We're talking about none of this exists. But you have to use it because you just number them. Anyway, I don't want to go down into a conspiracy theories rabbit hole, but you got to do the research in order to understand this game. But once you understand it, now you will know how to play. Any game is just a matter of understanding it, right?
Yeah, and I'm going to say this to the audience too. Like, You guys continue to keep thinking everything is a scam and everything, and kept letting these 19s and 20-year-olds pull up in Ferraris, and you wondering how they even got approved for the loan. These is exactly like these 19 and 20-year-olds are out here going out and taking trade lines and getting Ferraris. They're getting, and the guy, again, they're having this happen from a young age. Their dad and mom is putting them on these trade lines, building up their credit report. They're going out and driving Ferraris and Bugattis and their Lamborghinis in Miami, and you wonder how they got approved. Even some of these Asian kids, they're going out and buying houses at 19 and 20, and you're wondering how they even got approved for the loan. The same thing we're talking about, and the lack of ignorance and thinking everything is a scam is the same reason you're holding yourself back in life. So,
I mean, majority of people will always be, because most people can't even pick up a book and read a page, right? So, but at the end of the day, guys, and another thing is, last time we talked about here in the US, even how neighborhoods are classified.
Right.
And again, guys, I'm gonna link this website, but if you go on that website, literally neighborhoods are classified by credit score. So you can go and type 21117 is a zip code in Maryland.
Right.
They'll tell you exactly what the average person living in that neighborhood's credit score is. Why are they doing that? It's to show you, hey, if you are in this neighborhood, the credit score is 500 credit score for the average person. What that tells you is you might get shot just walking out in the street, right?
Right.
And then they'll show you also, sir, if you find a zip code that says, let's just say 650 and up. Now, from 700 and up, you're definitely in a great neighborhood.
Right.
So it's like this. The system here goes to that extent, right? But here we live in a system where if you walk anywhere and you want opportunities, because I know in the multifamily space, for example, even if you could qualify to buy 100 unit, it's not that you need your credit,
Right.
but if you don't have a great credit history, great credit profile.
Yeah.
In the business acquisition world, this is the same. Remember when we were negotiating that daycare? The first thing that the business owners that sells their businesses and they'll finance it to you and be the bank, the first thing they want to see is, hey, show me your credit. Show me your credit. Let me see your credit history. And then let me see your financials. Right. But your credit, why your credit? Because that's the only way for them to go and verify that you are actually financially disciplined. That's it. They don't know you from Adam's cats. So if you can show them through the credit, is the same thing for a landlord. Like we have properties. Do we just let tenants in without checking their credit? No. You gotta show your credit. And so, guys, you just gotta understand the game and try to play it. So I don't know what other tips you want to give people when it comes to credit, or maybe a play. Give them some game when it comes to at least, especially having these high limit credit cards. Because I remember one of the things, every single time you tell the ones that need a trade line, is the problem they have a good credit score. They have maybe credit cards or a couple of accounts, you call them, right? But the highest limit card they have is a $2,000,
right.
$2,000, $3,000. And you're like, no, we're going to have to do a trade line. And that trade line will allow you now to go access credit cards that have 5K or up. So high limits.
Okay.
Explain that. Give them the game when it comes to that. Because I thought that was very interesting.
No, cool. So by you going in, so what we typically tell some of the people to do is you go out, go get a trade line, get access to a trade line that is higher than the current limit you have. So if you have a $2,000 credit card you apply for right now, you're going to get a trade line for a $10,000 credit card. So you can do one or two things. You can either go to a new bank, right? And you can actually apply for a credit card. And most of the time what that lender is going to do is say, hey, the guy has a $10,000 credit card. How about we can match that credit card? Because remember, the banks are all competing regardless. So they always want to try to steal a customer. So if you go to Wells, if you got a Chase card for $2,000 and you go get a trade line from Wells Fargo, and then you walk out and go to Bank of America say, okay, he has a $10,000 credit card from Wells Fargo. Come here, come over here, come on inside. Let's give him a $10,000 card to make him feel at home. That's one way of doing it. Okay. The next, what I tell people to do is too, which is so key. Let's say you got that $2,000 credit card. What I tell people to do is max that card out and pay it off immediately. If you do that for at least 3 months.
You say max out, meaning use the whole amount?
Yeah, so swipe for $2,000. So any big purchase you have that you know you're going to spend anyway, max that card out, pay it off immediately with the money that you're going to use anyway. And then what you can do is you can go into the banks and actually request a credit limit increase. And you can do this every 3 months.
Okay.
Right.
Once every 3 months.
Yeah, you can do this once every 3 months. And most of the time, they'll always match you with whatever your biggest card is. So if you got approved for a $10,000 credit card, you're doing this for 3 months, you go in and call them, you can actually request a credit limit increase to the highest card on your credit profile. And they typically will match that. Yeah.
That's crazy. By the way, especially for the folks maybe that are in real estate like us,
Yes.
When you buy your material, for example, for the renovations, for the construction, all of that should come out of those cards.
100%.
You max them out and then...
But let me tell you why. Well, people don't understand. Let's get into it. There's something called points. Okay. People don't understand it. Okay, so you see sometimes with these big gurus have the American Express black cards and the gold Amex cards. People don't understand the power of points. Okay. So whenever you're swiping these credit cards and paying the credit cards back, what the banks are doing is they're giving you these things called points for actually using their product, right? So they're basically rewarding you for the product. And these points can be worth more than real money sometimes when it comes to traveling, hotel stays, car rentals. So, I mean, these points sometimes are worth more than dollars. Like $1 could get you 3 points, and you can use these points to now go get cars at a discount. You can get flights at a discount. I've seen people literally for the same $20,000 they would have spent going out of the country. They get these flights for $5,000 sometimes. Real cheap. Just using points, man.
Is that on a specific card? Or?
Man, most cars do it. The main players are Amex and Chase because you can take the points and transfer them to different places. Okay. So like Chase and Amex, if you got points on Amex, you can use them for Chase. Chase you can use for Amex.
Oh, you can do it.
Yeah, you can cross use. The banks work together, man. You know this. Okay. Yeah, they work together. So yeah.
What is the bureau that you have to probably focus on the most as a real estate guy? So you access to business funding, but then you want cards that you're gonna use specifically for material costs, construction costs, you name it. What's the bureau that typically pull from?
So most of the big cards that you're gonna use, most of them will pull from TransUnion. TransUnion. So anytime you're doing business, cards and everything, most big time people are always gonna go to TransUnion. And then next, I would say probably Experian, and then Equifax is more the personal. They will use Equifax from time to time, but that's more on the personal side. Okay. Most of those cards.
And one very important thing I heard you say also that most people don't realize is a lot of the clients that come, most people don't even know how to monitor correctly their credit profile. Right. What I mean by that is, guys, there is applications and you can give it to them. I know one of them that we use is MyScoreIQ. Yeah, and then you have which else?
You got MyScoreIQ, Experian.com.
Okay.
And you can do
so a bunch of, we're gonna put all of them in the description below, guys. But is normally you're supposed to go there even if it's once a month?
Once a month.
Okay, and see what's happening with your profile because just like your name, for example, let's say your name. His name is Stephen Blow Jr. Yeah. And so if, Equifax have it as Stephen Blow Jr. And, Experian has it as Stephen Blow without the junior. Yeah. And then the third bureau, which is?
Yeah, the third bureau, which is Experian. Equifax, Experian, TransUnion.
TransUnion have it as Stephen Blow Jr. Now you have to call Experian for them to add the junior, correct? That's how picky they are. And it's not just your name. Yes. Your name have to be the same exact all across the board.
All across the board, yes.
So name and then current address.
Yeah, your name, address, and you need your date of birth.
Date of birth
yes.
as well.
And I always tell the people the reason for that being is because, think about it. Let's just say, for example, your name is wrong, right? And it's Stephen Blow, and Stephen Blow Jr. is my name, for example, right? What'll happen is how the banks look at this is, okay, how do I know where to find this person? How do I know this is the right person? How do I know?
It looks like it's 3 different running the game.
Right. So you know how many people named Stephen Blow? Right. So that's what I'm saying. So the banks have to be able to differentiate you any way possible. So even missing one thing from any bureau will cause them to throw it off. Even the address is super vital because it's like, okay, if I lend you $100,000 and you have 2 different addresses on, depending on the bureau, I know where to come and collect my money from. I don't know where to chase you down to go get my money. So, that's how the banks think.
Okay. Yep. So with that, also when it comes to like the high limit credit cards as well, how many on average you always want on your account?
Always. So I always tell them minimum that you want for high limit credit cards is always 2. But yeah, 2 minimum, because whenever you're going on your business side to apply in order to even get these high limit credit cards, they want to see that you have a comparable credit report on your personal profile. Okay. What I mean by that is just, again, basically having those 2 high limit credit cards. At that point, they say, okay, we can give this guy $50,000 to $100,000 pretty easy. Okay. Yes.
And my understanding is, even if, because we had a couple of clients that came in, yes, and what happens is they had high limit credit cards, they're paying them on time, yes, but just because they're scared, yes, they took them back to the bank, yes, gave it back to the bank, yes, and now that they're looking to get funding for business ideas they have, that's now becoming a negative effect, yes, on their profile. Speak on that. Like,
yes, correct. So remember, one of the things we pointed out earlier was the credit age. Well, I don't care if you open up a $500 credit card, okay, and you had that card for 13 years. Do not close that card down. Yeah. It's better that you go try and get a credit limit increase on that card, rather than you close it down, because you don't want to lose the history. Okay. The history is super important to your credit report.
The history is the age.
When I say history, I say the age of the credit report. Okay. So if you had that card for 13 years, okay, that's 13 years of credit age on your credit report. If you close that card down, you lose it, even if it's a low limit credit card. So keep it open, no matter what. Just get a limit increase. Yeah. Better to do it.
I think what happens with at least most people that we speak with directly, yes, is they're like, well, I had 4, 5, 6 different credit cards now. Yes. I was tired of having different cards. Yes. So how can they solve that issue of having 10 different cards? Yes. Now they're like, okay, I don't know what is what.
100%.
So I only want to have 2, so I don't have to think about 10.
No. So I always tell her the more cards you have, the better. And my thing is, remember, you only have to swipe those cards 1 time a year to keep them open, right?
Yeah. So if I have a 15K,
yes,
and instead of taking it back,
yes,
I can literally just use $50, yes, each month, yes, just to keep the account open.
Not even each month. You can literally take $50, swipe that card 1 time for $20, pay it back, and that's it. You don't have to touch it for the rest of the year.
Once a month. That's what I'm saying. Is it once a month?
No, once a year. Once a year.
Just once a year.
Once a year.
Then you'll keep it open.
Yeah.
Not once a month.
Nope. Once a year.
Come on. Yeah. I thought it's once a month. I'm like, okay, once a month I gotta think about taking the card.
1 time a year. And you also have apps that manage that for you. Like there's one called iCard Points, which is on iOS. It literally will allow you to put all your cards in one place, and it'll track your credit limits and everything. Like, come on,
guys. And now we have GPT Chat GPT, guys. You can go sit down and ask Chat GPT to tell you which different sources or applications you can use to actually help you manage all these things, guys. And it's probably going to give you a whole game plan. But anyway, keep in mind, it's not because you don't need it today, that means you're not going to need it in the future. Yes. So the fact that right now you don't know where you're heading in life, you don't know if you're going to do business, doesn't mean that one day you're not going to be like, you know what, I have a great idea. I would love some funding to do business. And now because you took that card and gave it back to the bank, now you still have to run back, take a new card, and now because the new card is a new age, but that's where you have gonna have to use the trade line, right, to get the
But even then, I always tell people this too. Credit is a part of your life, whether you want it to be on your business.
Here in the U.S.
Yes, here in the U.S.
About the U.S. If you're in the U.S., I don't care you're Nigerian, Cameroonian, African American, white. It doesn't matter. That's what the system here runs on. Point blank. Period. So with that,
for you to go in and go close down a credit card or get a loan removed off your credit that's in good standing, good standing, that is bad. Because even if you wanted to, let's just say for example, you wanted to just go out and even buy a primary residence, which we're against that. Single family. Yeah.
If you're gonna buy a primary residence, make sure it's at least a duplex. Live in one, rent one, maybe fourplex. Here in the US, up to a fourplex, guys, is still considered single family, so you can qualify for FHA, conventional VA loan if you're part of the military. At least you can live in one and rent the other 3 or the other 2. And if all the duplexes or fourplexes is in the wrong neighborhoods, do me a favor, still rent in the neighborhood you want to live in, and go across town and go buy these multifamilies and just rent them out if you don't want to live in those neighborhoods. I promise you, you do not want to get trapped with a freaking single family, at least until you're generating enough passive income to where you can afford to live in neighborhoods where properties appreciate faster, which is typically also the most expensive neighborhood. So unless you have a lot of income, you cannot afford to go and buy single families in those neighborhoods. So with that, continue your point.
So one of the worst things I always see is stay ready so you don't have to get ready. I always tell people that when it comes to your credit, it is better to set your personal profile up properly and then need it when it like go get access to capital when you need it versus having to go and build it, take the 3 to 4 months it takes to build it, and then now you're patiently waiting to get the 150 to fund that business. It's always better to set it up, always, even for your personal side. So, yep.
So yeah, I mean, listen, guys, we can talk about this all day, but I think we dropped enough nuggets today. Yep. Oh, one thing before we get out of here is the utilization.
Yes.
I noticed a lot of people also were not educated on the utilization. When you first create your credit profile, whether that be through a parent maybe that added you as an authorized user, or you walk into the bank and somebody that is working at the bank gave you advice. So a lot of people get the advice of when you get these personal credit cards on your personal profile to use up to 30% of the amount. So if you were given $2,000 limit, you use 30% of the $2,000. If you're given $10,000, you use 30% of that $10,000. Now, when it comes to the business funding, before you get them ready to go get business funding, I notice when you look at the profiles, you go, oh no, we're gonna have to drop that to 10% utilization. So explain the distinction for the audience. How should your behavior be if you're thinking every single time you go back to the bank, you're only going to get personal loan? Versus if you ever go to them, you might go in for business funding. How does your behavior should vary? Basically?
100%. So whenever you're working with, and again, I'm glad you actually pointed out, that's two key distinctions you want to know. When you're going for personal funding, it is okay to have a 30% utilization max. That is the max you want to go to. Once you start to go above that, your DTI starts to get too high, which we'll break that down on another video. Debt to income ratio, right? So that starts to get too high. But my thing is, on the personal side, you want to keep that at least 30% max. Anything below that, you're in the green. So you're able to go out and go get a car loan, a mortgage, long as your credit cards are below 30% utilization.
Below 30%.
Yeah, below 30%. Below 30%.
Below 30%. So that's if you only go into the bank to just borrow things like cars.
Mortgages, personal mortgages.
Okay, personal. There you go. That's I wanted to make the distinction. So personal mortgage, car, which is personal, whatever, personal, regular personal loan. Okay.
Any loan is personal.
But if I'm thinking later I'm gonna go in with an LLC, get business funding to get into real estate, let's say. So is my utilization still okay to be at 30%?
No. You want to go take that thing from at 10% max and below. So anything below 10%. The reason being is because on the business side, how they look at it, right, is on your personal, they want to see, okay, how good is this person with debt? If he can pay down most of his stuff, and we talking about credit cards specifically, right? When we talk about utilization. Is he so good? Is he good enough at managing his cards to where he can keep this thing below 10%? That shows the bank that you're very, very, very good at managing the debt that you do have. So despite you having access to these high limit credit cards, which are just $5,000 plus, if you can pay those down below 10% every month, it shows the bank that, okay, this guy is financially savvy. He knows what he's doing. So he look good. That's the first thing. The second is I always like to talk about the inquiries. All right. So what are inquiries? Whenever you go apply for an actual loan or any type of car loan and everything, they're going to put something called a hard inquiry on your credit. It is basically where the lender is going to go in, or the bank, and they're going to actually print out a copy of your credit report and go through it with a fine tooth comb. That's all it is. So if you have a lot of inquiries, it just shows that you're trying to take out a lot of debt. So what typically happens is I tell people on the actual personal side, when you're going for a personal car loan, personal mortgage, keeping that under 5 is good. But when you're going for business specifically, they want to see that that's under 2 in the last 6 months, or 3 total. So on your credit report, you want to be under 3.
So big distinction, guys. So your behavior as if you ever, the only needs you're going to have are personal, it's completely different. Then if you're thinking maybe potentially in the future, I'm going to go back in, but I'm going to need business funding. They look at these things completely different. So guys, you're going to have to like start operating and start getting into the bank's minds and start thinking like the underwriters, because those are the people that make the decisions. Is how do they look at my profile? How do they look at me? How do they look at my LLC? How do they look at me separate from my LLC? Once you understand that, the rest is super simple. It's just creating relationships you're gonna have to go shake some hands, talk to people, and typically you'll be able to, get what you need if really. But again, guys, we're gonna keep emphasizing this, guys. Keep coming back every Thursday, 5 p.m. CST. But one thing we're gonna keep emphasizing is that regardless, that's for us, for you guys watching this, if you don't have any plans, and you don't make the plans once you get the money, you make the plans before you get the money. You make the plans before you get the money. If you don't have a concrete plan as to why you want to get this funding and where you're going to put it and how is it going to generate money, how is it going to come back in less than the 12 months, just don't do it.
I agree.
Because what you're doing at this point now is you're gambling with debt. So if you don't have something like real estate, and I'm going to stick to that because that's what we're into in real life. If you don't have something like that, there's other people that invest in Turo, or maybe you want to do Airbnb, whatever. But remember, whatever amount you get, you want that principal to be paid back before the interest. Typically, you don't want to carry because those interest rates are high. Once you pass the 12 months, what is the average interest rate?
On average, right now, you're looking at anywhere between an 18% to 24% APR, and that's compounding. So daily compound.
That is daily.
That's daily.
You don't want to carry that.
Oh,
and then the great thing is if you put it into a investment vehicle that will bring back the principal and some profits to you before the end of the term, once you pay, then now you can go back and they will increase the amount because obviously you just proved you can put money to work and then bring it back. And one of the episodes, guys, we're going to talk about once you passed what we call the seed money, the starting money with the LLC, how now when you start talking about C Corps, how you can access actually bigger funding. Because with an LLC, I think you can go up to how much?
I say typically you want to get to $250,000 on just with straight business funding. Okay. All right, from the first. After you hit $250,000, stop it.
Okay, after the first $250,000 with one LLC.
Yeah, with one LLC.
Okay.
You want to cut it.
Typically, you want to cut it, then you want to move on to things like C Corps and things like that because those actually give you access to way more funding, but that's a whole different episode for another day, guys. So we'll talk about that as well. But again, guys, as usual, this is obviously not financial advice. We're not your attorneys. Right. We're not your financial advisors. So obviously consult your own. But again, do your own research, guys. We live in the information age. So again, either you're a creator or you're a consumer. So if you watch this kind of content and all you can do is to type scam in the comments instead of going and doing your own research, nobody cares. Like you're not doing a disfavor or favor to anybody if you don't change your own life. All right. So what's the last thing you want to leave them with? Yeah,
I just want to leave you guys with all the scammers and all the bullshit comments and everything. Listen, you guys, stop being ignorant because this is the thing that actually holding your generations back. Like I told you, this is how the smallest man can go get access to working capital to be able to grow a business and turn profits. So for you guys to call that a scam, pretty ignorant. So that pretty much would be the only thing I would lead them with is go out here and take advantage of the information that's been given because I started in the same position as most of you guys. Trust me. So again.
Where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on IG at SBJ the Entrepreneur, also on TikTok. You can also follow me on Twitter at the same thing. I'm on all platforms. So reach out to me if you got any credit questions, anything regarding real estate, trading. Shit, hit me up. I'm here.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can find me on IG at Real Estate DLO and then all the other platforms that you're on. I'm on it. Okay, guys. So we'll see you guys on the next podcast episode. Again, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out when we put out a new episode every single Thursday at 5 p.m. CST, guys. Until then, keep that boom mindset, guys. Stay bold, stay obsessed, stay optimistic. And lastly, keep a mindset that's abundant. We'll see you on the next one. Boom, boom, boom.